shut it down in the club, getting fucked up. If you drunk, fuck them, put your fists up.
It's going down tonight. And while you're home, that's right.
Time shut it down in the club.
Yeah. Oh man, I swear to God, I do these shows at the weirdest time of day. It's 3 a.m. and here I am doing the next show for the Monkman, Marl Kalone. I'm, of course, your host, the Monkman. And I've got a very, very important topic to talk about today. One that seems to be an ongoing problem within the MGTOW community. And we have a lot of posers, we have a lot of imitators, we have a lot of female orbiters. There's just there's a real problem with this, and I have a real problem with it personally. So, you know, this is something that to me it kind of ruins parts of the MGTOW community, and that is women who infiltrate the MGTOW movement. Now, we've seen women with their own channels that talk about the MGTOW movement spring up all over YouTube like a gushing water well from under the fucking earth, right? These channels seem to pop up overnight, and it's been brought up by other channels and talked about. A good channel that talks about this is Mike, the MGTOW monk. He's brought this up before, and you know, I had thought about doing a video on this before, and I just never actually got the balls up to do it. And he finally did one. I said, you know, he's just said exactly how I feel about this. Why, as a movement for men, are we allowing these females to infiltrate our movement? That really bothers me. Now, I see a lot of men's groups on Facebook that I'm in, and MGTOW groups, red pill groups, and occasionally you'll see women in there. To me, that defeats the whole purpose of men going their own way. I understand that there's women out there that want to orbit around men. There's always been this section of the female population. How would I describe this? Would I say some of them were like tomboys, I guess, and they like to, you know, hang out with the guys on the basketball court. They like to hang out with guys that are putting their cars together to do, you know, midnight drag races. Whatever it is, there's always been this segment of the female population that wants to get in and be one of the guys. And the MGTOW movement is no exception. Except here's the problem with it. This movement was specifically designed and created and procured for men as a way to escape the threshold and the for lack of better terminology, the claws of feminists and a society that is geared and based towards feminist standards and viewpoints today. This MGTOW movement was created for us men to have an escape mechanism, so to speak. So when I see groups and I see collectives and I see channels on YouTube with women that have infiltrated this men's movement in any way that they seem to be able to, just like the Boy Scouts of America have been infiltrated by girls, it bothers me. And not only does it bother me that the women are doing it, but it really bothers me that the men, specifically when you're talking about Facebook groups, have allowed these women into the groups in the first place. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you, I've left, I don't know, probably a dozen or so of these groups over the last couple of years that have allowed women into red-pilled and MGTOW groups. I'm not having that bullshit. I'm not having that bullshit. You are a phony group. You are a two-faced group. And specifically, whoever is moderating those groups and allowing that to happen, you're not really part of MGTOW if you're allowing that to happen. Point blank. I'm calling you out. Gentlemen, let's get one thing straight here. Women, by default, can never be part of MGTOW. Period, point blank, end of story, end of discussion. It stands for men going their own way. That can't be any more specific. It can't be geared any more towards one group. To me, it cannot be any clearer. This is like when you're a kid and you've got a clubhouse or a fort out in the woods in your neighborhood, and it says boys only. And as soon as you put the sign up and you hang that, door and ladder and finish the last nail on that clubhouse, the girl wants to come and get into the club. Well, we aren't kids anymore. This is not about what women want anymore. This isn't the What Women Want Expo or the fucking movie. This is real life. Men going their own way. We're choosing to step outside the unrealistic expectations of women, of society. We're choosing to go our own way. And along with that, that includes leaving women out of the equation with men going their own way. Now, you certainly can't stop women from having YouTube channels and speaking about MGTOW from the outside, but for them to say that they understand what we go through, that they understand our resentment, that they understand this and they understand that, and blah, blah, blah. None of that matters, because in reality, they don't understand it. Simply put, they don't. Society today is geared towards females having better opportunities, better resources, and much more help in just about everything out there. They have much lower rates of suicide. They have extremely high rates of gaining full custody of children as opposed to men. They have much, much less workplace deaths than men. Nearly every shelter in the United States is geared towards women, with the exception of one, I believe now. I believe there's one male shelter for violence, domestic violence. And yet, the statistics, if you look at them, they bounce around anywhere from domestic violence numbers being anywhere from 18 to as high as 53% for males. So if you put that somewhere in the middle, that still puts us over 35% of the domestic violence victims. And yet we have one shelter nationwide. Women, I'm speaking to you too. You're not part of the MGTOW equation, period. You can't speak on it as you have experience or you understand, because you don't. This was procured for men. This was designed for men to give us the opportunity to express our feelings, to come together with other MGTOW resources and men, and to chart our future course collectively and individually. And women, you're not part of that equation. I'm sorry to tell you. You can pout and you can cry and you can whine like little children about it, but you're not part of the equation. Doesn't matter how down you think you are with men, how much you agree with us, how much you decide to orbit around men and be, yes people that agree with us, because it isn't about you. This is something that we procured for our fellow brothers, and we are taking the reins and control on this one. Point blank. Men, now I'm talking to you. You have the responsibility, the absolute responsibility, if you are part of this movement, to continue, as Mike the MGTOW monk has said, and others have also said, we must purge. We must purge these women from within our ranks. This is a male movement. Does not include women. Doesn't give them authority to speak on it. Doesn't give them a place at the table on it. There is no place on the table for this. This is a man-only club, and they need to watch on this, buckle up, and watch from the outside. And if you're one of the simps moderating a group or a movement somewhere, and you're allowing women into your ranks, straight up you're a simp, and you don't belong claiming yourself as MGTOW or red-pilled. That's my opinion on the subject. I take a hard stance on it. I don't believe that there's exceptions to the rule. I've seen so many of these women's channels that talk about it. I don't have a problem if women talk about the extenuating circumstances of men today from the outside, just as a general perspective. But I don't want them talking on MGTOW as though they're sympathetic or they understand it, or that they're somehow involved with it or part of it. They're not. So they can have their own little channels where, they can talk about discussions of, men and the issues we face today, but do it from an outside perspective. Don't do it and use MGTOW or red pill, claiming that and trying to bring in massive amounts of views and subs to your channels, because what that boils down to me is that tells me that you're media whores, straight up. And that's not a derogatory term. Just because you're female, there's plenty of male media whores as well. Anybody that's taking advantage of the movement strictly for views and subs, but really doesn't believe in it, you're a media whore. And that includes this, this section of the populace of women that are posers, that are doing this right now. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the subject. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, gentlemen. And yes, this is for you, gentlemen. Women, I'm sure I'll get some hater comments eventually from you guys too, but to be honest, I don't give a shit. It isn't about you. You guys have your feminist shit that you've had going for 50 plus years that's taken a nosedive and gone down in flames. Fix that up. Work on your own shit. Leave MGTOW to the men, because that's what we do. And we'll steer this ship correctly for us. You go steer feminism and the destruction you've made there and correct your ship and do what you gotta do. But leave MGTOW and Red Pill alone. This is for us. You have your feminism. Go off and do that shit. I'm out for now. See you guys on the next show. And in the meantime, gentlemen, stay the fuck red-pilled.
Nobody rep you to the way I do. I've been thrown down nigga one since day one. Son coming at me with your gun, really don't want no word from me would have your whole crew done. Dishing out capital punishment like big puns. Time to shut it down in the club, get fucked up. If you drunk, fuck them, put your fists up.
It's going down